Hey guys, today we're looking at the XYZ Cup, and I'm going to make my predictions for the entirety of the meta of this event. So this is a more competitive event than normal a little bit, but this is probably one of the worst formats, and I'll explain why later. But for now, I'm going to predict this at the start. A lot of people are going to probably be dropping. In terms of pure XYZ, the deck most people will probably have is going to be Kashtira, Exo Sister. So we're mostly going to be seeing those decks. But here's the thing about like Fissure, Macro, and Macro-like effects. These, for the most part, are really bad against Xyz decks. Just straight up, no bueno. No bueno. They are not good. And uh, it's pretty bad just like cash against XYZ decks. It's not that great. So the biggest threat that you have as like Kishtira is going to be like Nibiru, Imperm, whatever. So we can play around the Nibiru, can't really do anything about Imperm ever. If our opponent plays well with their Imperm against our hand, uh, we're just screwed. So if we have just like a Kishtira Unicorn or whatever, then this gets impermed. We just Kishtira Unicorn pass, not very great. If we pass with a Rise Heart and whatever else, if they don't, if we draw like even the most insane of hands, Rise Heart getting negated is uh, probably a death sentence, honestly, because we are being super threatened by inherent summon Zeus or any Xyz attacking into Zeus because we have Shangri-Ira as well, which we might put onto our end board. And then another really bad aspect is just the mirror is really bad. It is favored for the going second player, I would say, for the most part. Whoever is going second in the cash mirror is going to have an advantage. So for all those reasons, I think Kashtira is not that great in this kind of format. Uh, Kashtira is basically at its best when you're able to play Kashtira, but not that many other people are playing Kashtira for whatever reason. So that's great. And yeah, Kashtira mirror, not that great. Pretty miserable, I'd say. And feels kind of sacky as well. But yeah. If we were to then look at the other decks in general, though, that you can play aside from like Kashtira, Exo Sister, and all that, Pearly it's just somewhat suffers a little bit under macro, but primarily a lot of pure XYZ decks just don't care. So with the example of Exo Sister may be kind of a banished deck, but their own cards, essentially how they play is like we summon guys and then it's adios amigo to all of the cards you detach. They don't really have recursion. They don't come back. They're just gone. That's essentially how Exo Sister plays, and a lot of other like XYZ decks. So, for example, with the Utopia cards, uh, for the most part, you don't care about macro. There is actually just one card I believe you actually care about in terms of like macro. Aside from that, I mean, you can just Zeus to clear, so not that big of a deal. Worth mentioning, I guess, is this time around they did remember to ban some of the funny insects. So not Maxi, but the cards we have banned here are the cards that stop you from essentially just XYZ summoning, so those are gone. So the one that requires you to use it for essentially an XYZ summon, which is level 6, which is not that good of a level to XYZ summon with. And then the level 3 one, I believe, that makes it so that you cannot XYZ summon. So those two, banned. Aside from that, I don't think any cards are actually banned for this event. But yeah. This is what we're working with here, and there is actually a really horrible flaw with every single XYZ deck, just period. So the one that resists this type of thing the most is probably Pearly. So the thing about every like XYZ deck ever, uh spell trap interaction in general, you don't have a very good way to deal with that in general in most XYZ decks in my experience. So in case we're playing Kishtira, the only way we have to really interact with our opponent's back row is going to be a Rise Heart. If our opponent literally sets 5 and passes, well, we have a Rise Heart or we have nothing. So that's the general idea, but is set 5 pass, is control really the way to go? Not necessarily, because I think we can do a little bit better, and there is a bit of a better option. So instead of like a control deck, I think going second in general is the most favored. And here's a fun fact. Yo, rituals are all legal. So just for example, if we were to be playing Mikanko, we're super favored because we can drop XYZ Encore, we can drop well, just about anything really. Raigeki, Kaijus, all of those are super good into every single Xyz deck, like ever, period. So if we develop the meta that far, then it goes back to control deck. Being able to play against Mikanko well, so you have like stuff like Golgonda to protect against like Duster or Lightning Storm. So we're mostly going to be, I think, looking at like a bunch of people trying to play XYZ decks because it's logical to do so, because XYZ Cup. And then people are going to realize, oh, these decks suck, and going second is going to be super favored, and there's not much you can do against any like going second cards here. Because in terms of Omni Negates, there is no easy to access Omni Negate with any XYZ decks, just period. Not that you can respond to XYZ Encore anyways. So if we were to be able to manage an Omni Negate, that'd be impressive, considering I don't think there actually is one. If we were to look at Spell Trap Negate, I don't think there is a single XYZ Spell Trap Negate either. There's only, I believe, individually Trap Negates or Spell Negates. So Hope Harbinger, for example, does not negate traps, only spells. And then we have like only monster negates as well. So because of that, if we get hit by like an evenly, sometimes we can get completely rolled, or we get hit by like a Raigeki, we can get rolled by that, right? And that's pretty no bueno, I guess, right? And this means that macro, at least, not that important. So like a card like Dimensional Fissure, it's not going to go that hard. Just worth checking, I guess, is Flu going to be... Yeah, Flu is Massacred. But it's just Flu. How about Vanquished Soul? It's kind of hard to tell what is not legal, but Vanquished Soul is... Wait. Oh, rare. Vanquished Soul seems somewhat legal, but not having the Link monster makes this pretty hard to play. So, yeah. We're not looking at a good time here, I would say. Well, getting Kaiju'd and all of that, not that great. If I were to just put my guess at what the best possible end board we could do in this kind of like format, like as a combo player, I honestly think best option is probably going to just be finding a way to combo onto the field our copy of Gamma Seal, the Sea Turtle Kaiju, with a copy of Kyoto Waterfront. If you're able to do so, then you can't be Kaiju'd, and XYZ Encore can't out Gamma Seal, so you can't Kaiju a Kaiju, so this is probably as good as it gets. And typically people aren't going to be running Jizukuru unless they're on Mikanko, which makes this still not like necessarily the best matchup against Mikanko, but you have options, which is something. And I guess this also insulates your own board from Kaiju, so we actually have some removal. We can remove Jizukuru, for example, if our opponent tries to run over our Gamma Seal by battle. So it's a bit complicated, but I mean, theoretically, this would be the best end board, in my opinion, but don't know if it's plausible. So, yeah. if we're thinking in terms of board breakers, XYZs, I think, don't have any good ways to deal with board breakers. Now that I think about it, there's like exactly one Omni Negate. In terms of like XYZs, there's like two, but one of them's really bad because it's mandatory. So we have Lancelot, and then we have also a rank 8. We have Zombie Stein. So those are probably the only Omni Negates, but they're actually relatively hard to access, aside from maybe like the Lancelot. But I mean, Lancelot is going to be like not that useful because it's mandatory. So our opponent can just force the negate and then use whatever impactful card they have. Like, I don't know, just for example, activate Prosp, banish 3. Oh, it gets negated by Lancelot, shocker. And then we drop the Evenly or Raigeki or whatever, so that's a thing as well. So going second OTK though, we have like Lyrilisk and stuff, which is not very easy to like play around. And in terms of like just removing back row, you do have the option of Zeus, which is nice. But if you do lose your Zeuses or Zeus, you might be in it for a bad time. So as like a going second player or like control player, an option you would have is to use Ghost Cherries in order to banish like your opponent's Zeus from the extra deck, so there's no easy board clear for your back row. So my prediction here is essentially people are going to start with Cash and some other XYZ decks to start. We're going to start realizing that Cash actually sucks against XYZ decks, and then this is probably going to start to be dropped. And also, playing the mirror sucks anyway, so people are probably going to stop gravitating towards Cash after a while. And then after that, we're probably going to see a lot of going second decks, and then control decks also start popping up. So that's what I think is going to be mostly the meta for phase 2, being just going second and control, because they're unironically the best decks you could be playing against, like just pure XYZ. If your extra deck's just limited to XYZ monsters, there is no reason to not just play like control or some kind of control strategy, just whatever's available. I'm not sure what they hit exactly, but let's see. For example, Subterror. Yeah, this is perfectly fine. We don't really need an extra deck for Subterror. We could play that. I mean, it's probably not the best control deck, but it is for sure an option. And then there's like Makanko and other going second decks. And Rituals I honestly don't think are that great. So in terms of actually going first, I guess another combo exists. Technically, we might be able to like Drytron it up and then make Herald, if that is legal. I guess we should real quickly find out that it is legal. So you can technically do this as well. And then you can, I don't know, Herald, I guess. But that's also weak to Kaijus, which people are probably going to be playing because they'll be playing probably going second decks. And in fact, there is a really good strategy for just spamming rank 8s in order to OTK your opponent with stuff like Numeron Dragon, cards like Numeron Dragon. So that deck is probably going to be one of the better decks for this event, in my opinion. And since you can't set up super good end boards or play through like the hand traps and set up a good end board, well, good enough to deal with like the rank 8 spam with like dropping Raigeki and board breakers and whatnot, yeah, I think that deck would be pretty solid as well. So I guess we're going to mostly have to be looking out for Makanko, Lyrilisk, and then the rank 8 spam deck, the one that plays all the Kaijus and this card, whatever it's called. Okay. Fairytale Luna, this one. So if you know, you know. So that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.